Hello, I'm Dale Weir with Caldwell Banker Gunn Dacre. Thank you for joining me over a cup of tea for a discussion about short sales today. What's a short sale? A short sale is where the seller who is selling the property owes more on it than the buyer is willing to bring. Now, with a short sale, if the buyer or the seller provides the difference to the bank, it doesn't become a short sale. It is a short sale only when the amount of money that is owed versus the amount of money for the sale is short. That's how it gets its name. Are these a good deal? Sometimes, but not always. What a lot of people don't realize with a short sale is that there's a lot of paperwork involved and a lot of time involved. Let's say you find a house that's a short sale that you're interested in buying. What happens often is that the seller has put it on the market. They're looking for a buyer. Years ago, we used to market these very, very low when we initially started out. Then we'd get a buyer in who thought this was a great deal, and the buyer then, we'd take his contract and we'd send it to the bank. The bank would laugh at us. Sometimes they wouldn't even bother to negotiate with the buyer. But they'd come back and they'd say, this is the amount of money that we want on the house. Now we would re-advertise the property with the value that we knew the bank would accept. Banks got tired of people doing that, so the new philosophy is that we advertise at a fair market value for the condition of the property. Then we fairly rapidly mark the price down until we find a buyer. Once we find a buyer, again, we send it to the bank, and then we ask the bank if they will accept that contract, if they will come back and negotiate that contract with the buyer, or if they will reject it. It can take a long time to get an answer from the bank. I have two right now that have had contracts on them for 7 months, and we are just now getting a final acceptance from the bank. 7 months is a long time to wait. Majority of the buyers will walk away during that time period. They're not going to stick around to find out because they need to move. They need a new home. The buyers who typically can hold on are those who are in a month-to-month lease, living with relatives, or they're an investor. Someone who doesn't need this property to be moved into right away. If you're in a lease and your lease is coming due, this isn't a good plan for you unless you have an alternate place to live. Now, are short sale homes in good condition? Occasionally. But the majority of the time, if someone can't afford to make the payments, they're not doing preventive maintenance, nor are they taking care of the home and doing any upgrades or any of the big deals that need to be done. So, a short sale is an as-is sale. When the buyer puts a contract on the home, we have the option of having the inspections done right away, having inspections done at the point we get bank acceptance, or sometimes the buyer will take it without any inspections at all. It depends on how the contract is written as to whether or not the buyer gets to walk away when they discover that there's something wrong with the house. Now, some homes are in gorgeous condition. There's nothing wrong with them. Others have the minor warts that we all have, warts and wrinkles that we get with age. Other properties have a lot of damage. And at the point that the seller knows they're losing the home, there's no need to leave extras. I've seen some of them where they were totally stripped. That's not the norm. The norm is it's just a slightly used, worn house, but there will be issues. Can you afford to wait the time limit? Now, with a short sale, there are people who will tell you you have to be behind on your payments before the bank will talk to you about a short sale. There are others who will say you can do a short sale without being behind on your payments. That depends upon the bank. There are banks who won't talk to us until you are behind on payments. There are others who will talk to you right away. When you're looking at a short sale, you need to understand that you've got to have a lot of patience. Neither the buyer's agent nor the seller's agent are going to have all the answers right away. When these folders get to the bank person is typically dealing with 200 plus folders at a time. If any piece of paper isn't in the folder that they want, they will call and ask the agents to send it. But when it gets to them, it may not get put in the right place. We may fax it in to them or email it in to them, and it gets put in the wrong folder, the wrong 199 out of the 200 folders. We may end up having to resend the entire package multiple times because someone decided their deadline was close, so it's easier to delete the entire file than it was to continue working with us. When you're working with a short sale, the different sections of the bank do not regularly talk to each other. Often they don't talk to each other at all. As a result, the loan modification department isn't talking to the short sale department, isn't talking to the department that handles deed in lieu of foreclosure, and neither are talking to the department that handles the foreclosures. We often see where a home has an excellent contract on it and the home is put into foreclosure in the middle of the process because the sections don't talk to each other. Sometimes we're able to get the foreclosure stopped or postponed, not always. How much notice do you have? Sometimes it's less than a day. Foreclosures are supposed to be, in the St. Louis area, notified in advance, but if you're not living at the house, you may not get the notification. If you're not picking up the phone, you may not get the notification. They should be posted in the newspaper, but sometimes people miss it amongst the many, many pages of short sales and foreclosures that are coming up. So it isn't unusual to have someone who gets notified at the very last minute that they're being foreclosed on in the morning. Nor is it unusual to have someone who knows about it and thinks that somehow we have a magic wand that we can wave, that it's all going to make it good, and they're not going to get foreclosed on. Let me tell you, there's no agent I know who has a magic wand. We're not fairy godmothers. We cannot stop a foreclosure if the bank has decided that that's what they're going to do. We can try, but we can't promise you we can do that. With a short sale, they do have ones that you'll get an answer from the bank right away. The bank will come back, they'll negotiate with the buyer, we can get the paperwork done, and you can get to closing in 45 days. But that's not the typical. The typical is you wait for quite a while before you get an answer from the bank. Then at the point you get the answer from the bank, it may be a negotiation. And you may have offered 150, they may want 160. Sometimes we can bring those together, sometimes we can't. The bank has already determined its bottom line because when the package sent to the bank, we had to send a HUD-1 sheet that says this is how all the money is going to break out. And with that, you have to estimate taxes, you have to estimate all of the things that are going to be paid in the way of commissions, the way of repairs, whatever has to be done to that house. The bank will look at it and they will say, yes, we are netting enough money, or they'll say no. But it may take a long time for that to happen. So, when you're looking at a short sale or a foreclosure, you have to have patience. A short sale will affect the seller's credit for 3 years. With a short sale, there are some banks who will come back and tell the seller that they owe the difference between what the house actually sold at and the price that the buyer brought to the table. and it will be an unsecured loan for a number of years. There are other banks that we are able to get it written off, and we can't always tell that. So, have patience. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me over a cup of tea.